Cook County Higher Education for being our partners in our Lunch and Learn series, monthly series of classes from noon to 1, the fourth Wednesday of each month, to talk about issues related to aging well in Cook County. And they're great partners, and what would we do without them at Cook County Higher Ed? Just a quick reminder that for the first 3 months, January, February, and March of this year, we will be doing Zoom and Learn, which means that our class will be held via Zoom only, so that we don't have to worry about sliding around to get to Cook County Higher Education. Beginning in April, we'll have the option to meet either in person at Cook County Higher Ed or online via Zoom. Just a quick heads up about, did I tell you who I am? I don't think I did. I'm Christy John, and I am the Programs Administrator for Care Partners of Cook County. There we go. Next month for Lunch and Learn, we will be joined by Jason Hale of the Cook County Housing and Redevelopment Authority, or HRA. And Jason will talk to us a little bit about what the HRA is and what it does, and a little bit about housing for older adults in Cook County. And there's a lot of stuff about that we can talk about. So one of the nice things about Zoom only is that we get to have as many people join us as want to join us. So if you've got family, friends, neighbors who might be interested in that topic, I invite you to invite them to next month's Lunch and Learn. And then in March, we will be joined by the AARP, and they will help us know about senior fraud, what's going on in the way of elder scams about now, things that we can do to protect ourselves, and what we can do if we think we may have been victims of that. I also want to mention that our wonderful friends at Cook County Higher Ed are going to be on February 26th offering a class called Bridging Generational Gaps, which looks awesome and also has to do with aging well in our community. So I definitely invite you to check out their website, mycche.org. There we go, to learn more about that. Julie Wilson, our executive director, was planning to be with us today, but unfortunately she's got some family matters that need attending to, so she's not able to join us. We are very thankful to have with us as presenters Andrea Tofty, who is the Cook County Public Health Educator and one of the project managers of Age Friendly Cook County, as well as Grace Grenager, who is Cook County Public Health Supervisor. And I will also say, before I forget, that the Aging Well, or the Age-Friendly Cook County survey is still open. It will be open through the end of January, so that you can take that survey online, and I'm sure we will hear more about that from our presenters. So with all of that said, welcome, a big welcome, and I'll give you the applause to Grace and Andrea. Yay!
Thank you, Christy, and thank you, Kelsey, for both for the introduction and for being our hosts this afternoon. It's wonderful to be here with you. I'm stepping in to support my colleagues, Andrea and Julie, who've really been playing a lead in the Cook County Age-Friendly Community Initiative, as I've actually been out on maternity leave for part of the time that the survey has been live. So I've learned from Julie and from Andrea and have seen some of the initial results, and I'm just really pleased with how much collaboration has been happening in the last few months since I have been out with my infant twins, who are currently downstairs with my mother-in-law, who is our intergenerational caregiving Wonder Woman right now. So very grateful for her support as well to allow me to be here with you and have my full attention for the next hour. So I will just get started by saying this project is really a wonderful collaboration between Care Partners, Cook County, and specifically Public Health and Human Services, and also the state of Minnesota. So it's funded through a grant from the Department of Human Services. And the state of Minnesota has committed itself to being an age-friendly state and has granted communities across the state with funding and provided technical support so that we can all discover for ourselves what it would look like to dedicate our own resources and our own attention towards becoming age-friendly, as we know that there are some demographic shifts happening throughout our state and throughout our community. So this all started when Julie actually approached us and said, this would be a wonderful collaborative effort. It can't be, just Care Partners on its own. It would have to be the whole community coming along for the ride and really committing itself to learning more about what Cook County is like as a community right now for people who are aging, which is really all of us, and what it can do better in the future. So we got together, wrote a grant, and have been on this journey of learning and discovery ever since. So starting in the summer, and I'll let Andrea introduce herself as well.
Thank you, Grace. Yeah, I'm Andrea Tufti, public health educator, and I have had the pleasure of participating in this project with Julie Wilson. And yeah, you can continue. Thank you.
Oops, I'm the one who is controlling the slides. I'm gonna have to see, there we go. Okay, so here is our agenda for today. We're gonna start delving into what it means to be age-friendly. So we know that the state has designated itself as age-friendly and is on its own journey to really living that out. But we're also gonna, delve more into what the demographic shifts look like right now and into the future for our state and our county, what the age-friendly community network is, and what it looks at, which are the 8 domains of livability. So those are the different aspects of daily life and of community life that affect all of our qualities of life here in Cook County. We'll talk a little bit more about what Andrea and Julie have been up to over the last few months in terms of holding a series of community forums all over the county, and the survey, which is still open. So if folks on this presentation today have not taken the survey, we invite you to do so, to spread the word, to share information with friends and family. And then we'll do a bit of a visualization to have all of you imagine what it would mean for Cook County to really embrace this idea of becoming more age-friendly. And then we'll talk about next steps. So what are we going to do with all of the information that we've gathered? We're certainly hoping to make it useful and not just sit on it here at the county, but make it something that can really inspire us to take some next steps and to take action. And then we'll have time for all of you to ask questions as well. Andrea, anything I missed there? All right, I'm going to turn it over to you with the next slide here.
All right, so we're gonna just look at a few facts. First, did you know that year 2020 marked when Minnesotans that were 65 and older surpassed the age group of children, which are 0 to 18 years old. You can click again. So that is telling us that our, older population is going to be the majority. So Minnesota is skewing toward the demographic being heavier on the 65 and older. So out of those 65 and older, 93% live in their community, not in a long-term care setting or a nursing home or any kind of facility that takes all the adults. So they are in home, whether that is their ideal scenario or a less ideal scenario. There's not in a long-term care setting. So that tell us that there is, a high demand for attention in that area, in that demographic age group. So out of the 7% reminder that it is actually receiving care at a long-term facility or alike. So 4.5% of those live in assisted living, 2.5 of the 7% are in long-term care, and the remainder is in other different type of living arrangement. In 21% of the total population of 65 and older are adults that are receiving services through the Older Americans Act. And those are federal dollars created to support older adults. So therefore, we have a 79% of the population who is just not receiving support at all.
And so that Older Americans Act, that federal funding, that some of that funding does come down through state agencies and actually make its way into Cook County. So that could be like the Meals on Wheels program. I'm not sure, Christy, if you know off the top of your head if some of that makes its way to Care Partners through some of the grant funding that you have, but we do have funding in the community through this Older Americans Act that is supporting residents here in Cook County.
Yeah, several of our programs are supported primarily through the Older Americans Act, including our senior rides and chore programs and some of our caregiver support.
That's wonderful. I thought so, but I wanted to double check before I said that in the presentation. But it is really impactful funding. It's funding a whole wide range of services that support older adults living both in our community and across the entire country. But as Andrea said, 21% of community dwelling older adults are receiving services through this funding, but that leaves 79% who are not. So oops. I feel like there's a little bit of a delay, and sometimes I accidentally hit the slide button twice, so bear with me on the technology here. All right. So part of the Age Friendly Communities project is really shifting the way we think about aging, shifting our perspective on older adults. So older adults are not one group. Elders are very diverse. They have different needs, different perspectives, different lived experiences. And that's something that we always need to take into account when we're talking about older adults as a group, that it's not just one big kind of monolith, but it's a very diverse range of voices, needs, and experiences. So another part of this shift is talking about serving versus including. So we want to make sure that we're including older adults' experiences, contributions, what folks are doing to contribute to our communities, rather than making this sort of us versus them dichotomy, which isn't true. We all know that people of all ages are active and contributing to Cook County, making it a vibrant place to live. So as we're talking about being age-friendly, it's really just being more inclusive and bringing those voices and experiences to the forefront, rather than saying, what can we do to support this group of people? Because as we know, it's not one group of people, it's a very diverse range of individuals. So that quote, "nothing about us without us," really embodies that perspective, that we're trying to bring voices and perspectives to the forefront. So the idea of being age-friendly is really something that's informed by and created by the voices of older adults living in our community right now. Okay. Andrea, I'm going to let you talk about the demographic change here.
Sure. So as we are seeing on this image here, and we look at the 1950s, this is when most of our 65 plus were being born. So, and we can see back then, 65 and older were about 269,000 people in Minnesota. And as we moved to years 2010, that had made it to 6,000, about like 680,000 people. Then when you look at the year 2020, is when that number is really increasing like drastically, with a about 300,000 population increase. And then when you look at year 2030, we're doubling almost doubling on population. That was 65 and older on 2010 to 2030, about 1,200 people. I mean, 1,200, a million, 1,600. I can't say these numbers very well. 1,166,000 people. So that basically is telling us how this increase is going to happen. And in this next slide, we can see the total change in populations for age 65 years and older. So this is kind of the other way of looking at the previous slide and how you see that increase in population. That is, it really shows from the year 2010 to 2020, and then from 2020 to 2030. And then it's gonna like the populations, the projections are showing that the older adults are going to decrease then. I'm not 100% how is that change predicted for 2040, but we're focusing on the next 10 years for sure on addressing the large population that's 65 and older. So in this other image here, we can see like the picture for our region versus the picture for Minnesota. And while we see that in Minnesota, the trend is skewing towards a larger population of 65 and older, in Cook County, we see that more dramatically. So in Cook County, we actually have our 65 and older doubles the younger population. So you see 29.3% of our total population, 65 and older. This is data from the census from a couple years ago. So probably the census data today is going to show us a 30% here. But the important fact to point out is the double. So it doubles our population. And that means that a lot of our work, it has to be looking at the wide range of age demographics and how to integrate these that is supportive and cohesive. So go ahead.
All right, I was just going to say one of the things that sticks out in my mind of talking with Julie about this is she says, age friendly is really 8 to 88. And I guess we could even say, like 0 to 80, 0 to, 100 but the idea of thinking about people across the entire lifespan who are living in the community. So age friendly includes those children. It also includes those who are 65 and older. So we see that if you combine the people in that 0 to 18 range and the people who are in that 65 plus range, we're almost at half of the population in Cook County. So we really want to think about the unique needs and experiences of different segments of the population. So what are the needs and experiences of those people 0 to 18, but also working adults, but also those who are 65 plus. So it's just a way to really break down our population and think about it a little bit differently based on the percentage of individuals who find themselves at different places along the lifespan. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry to have interrupted you.
No, the only other things.
Right.
I just wanted to point out, like, for example, look at Carlton County. Is a county that is very different from our county, and it still is a great, it's for us as partners of the region. For example, Carlton County has a large younger population. So as you see, the older population is really small compared to the younger. So, we look for partnership with those counties on areas that are oriented to the younger population. But when we see Aiken County, they mirror our scenario. So they are with the older adult population, with a little bit of younger adult, the children, school-age children. And our unique situation or our unique challenges are like we are the remote frontier location. And so we have a little more limitations on services or programs. Okay, go ahead, Grace.
an interesting slide and an interesting way to think about the shifts in demographics over several decades. So this is really focused on the boomer generation. So when the first boomer would turn 65, that was, at this point over 10 years ago. You can see this little red dot, that's where we are now. I mean, I guess we've moved to, 2 years forward. So we're actually kind of a little bit closer to 2025 at this point. And then you see what's considered the last of the boomer generation turning 65 in about 5 years from now. So we have this whole period of time from 2011 to 2029 where we start to see the boomer generation turning 65. And that's what this graph sort of shows. And I'm not sure exactly why the demographic data goes from 65 to 80, but that's what this is showing us. And it's showing us what some of the impacts of that will be. So earlier on in this period of 2010 to 2045, the impact is primarily workforce shortages. And that's definitely something that we've seen with both within Cook County and also across the state. And then later on in this time period, we're really seeing that impact on healthcare and long-term supports and services. So we're kind of like right in this overlap period, or we're entering into this overlap period where we're seeing both the impact on our workforce and the impact on healthcare and long-term services and supports on this large demographic shifts that really we're part of, but it's much broader than us here in Cook County. So we kind of have to locate ourselves within this big trend that is nationwide. All right, so this gets into the age-friendly initiative. So as I mentioned at the beginning, this is a collaborative statewide effort. And the effort really looks at that demographic data and says, how can we support changes in our population? How can we support the demographic shifts that we're really witnessing in our state right now, and that we will continue to witness for the next several decades? We want to make sure that systems, our healthcare systems, our really all of our systems, our transportation systems, our housing systems, and our communities overall are both inclusive of the perspectives of aging adults and also responsive to their needs and experiences. So as what the state has done is they've brought together representation across different state agencies and also across different partner organizations, both in the nonprofit sector, across faith communities, across tribal nations. And they said, okay, we have to get together and figure this out. But, the state can't do everything on that high state level. They need local communities to really take this work and make it their own. So that's where this grant program came from. They've set aside almost $3 million to distribute across the state for different communities to figure out how they want to approach this for themselves. So we received one of these grants, and we're really in what we call the pre-planning phase of this, and that's an information gathering phase. We're not ready to make decisions until we really try to hear from people in our community so that we can better understand what they need and what the experiences are. Afterwards, there's the potential to become certified as an age-friendly community through the AARP network. And I would invite folks to go ahead and visit that agefriendlyminnesota.org. I can put that in the chat. But that is where you can really read more in depth. What is the state of Minnesota doing, and how are they bringing individual communities along for the ride so that we can be better prepared to really make this demographic shift work well for us and be inclusive of older adults and their voices. And maybe, oh, thank you, Kelsey. All right, let's see. Trying to advance my slide, and I got a little bit of a delay here. All right. So the Age-Friendly Communities Project, it started with the AARP network, which is affiliated with the World Health Organization and their global network for age-friendly cities and communities. So this is even before we started to see that boomer generation hitting 65. People knew the demographic shift was coming, not only in the United States, but in other parts of the world as well. We see life expectancy rising across the world in different places, and globally, we see organizations responding by trying to create a framework that communities can use to make themselves more age-friendly. So the AARP is sort of a technical assistance provider. They have an incredible amount of information and resources that local communities can use to focus and strengthen their services to make sure that they are more livable for people of all ages. So again, that I think Julie says 8 to 88, but as a parent of 3 kids under 5, I say let's just go 0 to 100. Let's make it even more inclusive. So livable for residents of all ages. And the benefit of the AARP having all this information is that they can help people like us so that we don't have to start from scratch. We can have, questions for surveys and for listening community forums already made that we can just tailor to what we see as relevant here. Some of the questions for a more metropolitan area really they're not all that useful for us, so we can leave those out and we can adapt them to be more relevant to what life in Cook County looks like for folks. And we don't have to come up with all of that on our own. As we move forward in this process, the information that we learn from the community forums, from the surveys, AARP can help us figure out what to do with that information as well. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but let's say, for example, housing were one of the areas that our community members identified as a priority need. The AARP network has resources specific to topic areas like housing that can help community leaders really dive in and learn from other communities. Because, some of the challenges and experiences we've heard about, well, they're unique to Cook County. There might be other communities that have common struggles. And if they're further along in the process, we want to be able to learn from them so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel and so that we can make progress more quickly as a community. Anything else that I missed on that, Andrea? Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to you for this kind of roadmap on where we are and where we're going.
Yeah, so we, in this first round of grant award that we received, with that funding, we are doing our survey. So that's where we are in the pre-planning. So what we did, we used the tools that were developed by Age-Friendly Minnesota that gave us the guidance for how to implement the forum sessions and how to cater the survey specific for our community characteristics. So we adapted both tools for county to gather the grounding data to start building our age-friendly community. So the plan is now we're gonna give the report of the survey in the forums by February, and we're presenting this to our commissioners. The goal is that with the results and commissioners' input, we come up with a decision of, they come up with a decision of being labeled as an age-friendly community. And once we're labeled, we start implementing these changes or these, we start implementing programs that are oriented to address, the needs expressed through the forums and the survey. And the idea is to reassess at the end of the year and see where areas, we need to prioritize or focus. And then in a 5-year period, we review, and then there will be Age-Friendly Minnesota is trying to project that we can apply for the grant every 5 years and to continue this work in a cycle.
And so I'll add, this pre-planning, like I said, is really information gathering. And this presentation to the commissioners will also be trying to report back to people who've participated in the survey or participated in the community forum. So everybody knows what it is that we learned. So we'll try to make this information widely accessible to people. And then this idea that the commissioners will vote on whether we want to continue to become an age-friendly community. It's really that that spirit of commitment, like we're committing to furthering this conversation. We're not just gathering the information and then stopping. I mean, the commissioners could say that, but the idea is we want broad, widespread support for continuing this journey of figuring out how we could become more age-friendly within Cook County. And so the benefit of really having that label is the ability to apply for further grant funds, and also that just community buy-in and commitment to the process of really digging in and figuring out how we can become more supportive as a community. And then there is access to the tools that the AARP has curated for age-friendly communities, so that we can really gain knowledge and understanding from people who've walked this path before us in different parts of the state and different parts of the country. Okay, so I sort of just talked about this. What is age-friendly? It's the roadmap, right? It's the framework to make changes in our community. It's a way to bring organizations together. It's not, just the county or just care partners or just the hub or any one organization in the community. It's really like all of us coming together to figure out how we can improve as a community to become more inclusive and supportive to people of all ages and as people age. It's a way we can approach projects. So if there's, for example, I'm just bringing some I guess, examples that are currently in the works, and this is probably partially as a county employee, the capital improvement plan. The county will be changing its buildings and its vision for the next several years in terms of like what that looks like. So can we add a lens to that process that brings in that demographic shift? How can we make sure something like the capital improvement plan is age friendly? What if I know the city of Grand Marais is reviewing like its parks and trails plan? How could we approach something like the parks and trails plan, keeping in mind that we have community members, of all ages, and we want to make sure that things are accessible and inclusive from birth through older adulthood. And it's also a structure so that it gives us some steps that we can take to get things done. So this is again that toolkit that the AARP brings to really help organizations and coalitions and communities think through how to make things age friendly. There are other rural age-friendly communities. The closest one is actually Two Harbors right down the shore. The city of Duluth is also age-friendly. The state of Minnesota overall is age-friendly. And there are other rural communities throughout the state who've also started this process a bit before we have. And so we have counterparts that we can learn from both in our region and across the state. And Andrea, I'll let you talk about the domains of livability here.
All right, these have been identified as the 8 domains of livability, which are like different areas that are within the basic needs that we need to have to succeed in life, to have healthy outcomes, to have proper health outcomes that determine, they're also called the social determinants of health. So when you are lacking some of these domains of livability, your quality of life decreases. So the idea is to look at all these domains to have a quality of life that is suit.
And so the survey
all your needs
and the community forum questions looked at these 8 domains very specifically. So that's part of how things were structured, making sure that we're asking questions very directly about all of these different domains so we can assess all of these different domains and how they're working for people here in Cook County. And they recently added one, so you can see this sort of addition in the oval that doesn't have an icon yet, but emergency preparedness is one of them. And that's something, just speaking from the recent experience with COVID and the pandemic, that is absolutely a critical domain. We need to be including an age perspective in how well we're preparing for disasters, not just pandemics, but extreme weather events, for example, or things like wildfires or ice storms. We want to make sure that we're always taking into account an age-informed perspective there as well. So hopefully they'll get a nice new icon for that one soon, but that was recently added as an additional domain. So we're up to actually 9 now.
Correct.
All right. So here's a sneak peek. We're going to come up with a more polished report after we close out the survey. But as Christy mentioned, the survey is still open. So if you have not yet taken the survey, please do. And please share it out. The more responses we get, the better our data will be, and the more we'll be able to be responsive to the needs that we see. So Andrea, I'll let you talk a little bit about what we saw in the data so far.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just gonna read these results that I drafted from our preliminary results. So far we have received 298 responses. The survey was consistent on 83 questions, and some of the questions required a little bit more feedback in detail. Some people wasn't able to finish the survey either because the system kicked them out or it was taking too long, and then they decided to come back later, but then, it got timed out. But still, the 298 responses with a 50% of completion rate is a success, and it was able for us to collect that base layer information that we needed. So what we see here is 83.4% of respondents own their home. First of all, that's has been a priority for the county. Through our community health assessments, we have identified housing as priority. And within the questions we asked in the survey, we wanted to know what type of housing people living, what is the desirable housing. So we see that 85.6% live in single family houses. And this is whether it's the preference for the county or it's just the characteristics of where we live for how is our geographic location. So also 81.3 says that they agree or strongly agree that their current residence meets their needs. So that also puts us in a good place right now, today, but we still need to look at the future. So if you go to the next slide.
I'll also say with that 81%, that's like, let's say it's 80%, it's roughly 80%, it's a little bit higher, but that would be maybe 1 out of 5 people are saying that their current housing does not meet their needs. So if we're looking at it from a glass half empty perspective, there is, a significant number of people out there who are looking for a different living situation or support with their current living situation. So it's both a heartening characteristic, but it also points to a portion of the community that is looking for something different than what they have right now.
So looking toward the future, we have that 40.7% of the participants that feel that the current residents need modifications to stay as long as possible. The modifications that are desired include step-free entrances, wider doorways, and bathrooms with safety features. And we all know that where we are, finding the services to create this, to implement these changes is challenging for where we are right now, located, just supply and demand type of situation. So it's important that we see these numbers so we can advocate for services that are redirected towards helping create these modifications in the home. So when people consider downsizing, 29% of them are open to it, and 54.1% contemplate that this change needs to happen in a year or later, but in a year is short term. So it's telling us that there are families out there ready to move out. They're ready for that next step of downsizing, especially our older adults that live in large homes. So they, at this point, taking care of that home becomes a challenge. In terms of community features, there is a need for improvement in areas like housing, transportation, and healthcare access. This also mirrors our community health assessment results from the recent one that we published. And 66.4% of the respondents highlighted that housing is a critical area that needs enhancement. These are good points that just reiterate like what our needs are. And then assisted living is a significant future consideration where we're all have our heart set that maybe we can create more of that type of housing for our community members. That's the yeah, you can go ahead here and Grace, take on from here.
Okay, so these are where the listening sessions happened. They happened throughout October, November, and there were 9 so far, and we're also working with the YMCA to hold a 10th. So if you did not get a chance to attend one of these community forums, we're partnering with the YMCA, and hopefully within the next few weeks, we'll have a 10th that really tries to do some targeted recruitment with YMCA membership and people who are using those facilities for activities, but it's also open to the community. So we'll be doing targeted outreach at the Y, but also community-wide outreach so that people know, hey, we have one more opportunity for you to use your voice and let us know what you think the community could be doing to become more age-friendly. So the range of different sites was intentional. We tried to make it easy for folks to get to one of these listening sessions. We tried to intentionally have them wrapped up before winter weather hit. We also offered a Zoom option. So if there are folks that, due to caregiving responsibilities or work schedules or just simply preference, wanted to attend online, they would have that ability as well. So we really tried to make it geographically very inclusive. So these are what the questions looked like. And Andrea, I'll let you, I don't know if you want to go through them very specifically, or if you want to just speak more broadly to what the topics were.
Yeah, like in virtue of the time, we are not going to have a discussion about these questions, but I want to share with you that these are the questions that we were sharing in our listening sessions. So what do you like most about living in your area of county? And it was amazing to hear, how everyone is so thrilled with our nature spaces and security or safety that they feel here, versus a larger city. And we discuss about things, that have better their lives. Some of the things that come up are bone builders, the YMCA, and other specific improvements to specific areas or groups or programs that people has highlighted. We also notice how people from different areas have different perceptions of, what they embrace more to where they live. So West End people, Gunflint communities, or Grand Portage will be similarities on what they love, but at the same time, there's like differences on what is the thing that they struggle the most in their areas. Then we create an exercise in which we try to ask the community members to think about the 10 years or 20 years ahead of them. Like for an 80-year-old, maybe it's hard for them to project 20 years from now. But if you're 40, you can project, I don't know, it really depends on each human and how much you want to live and all that. So I leave it to personal desires there. But the idea is that you think about the future in this forum and you talk about what will be your ideal life in 10 years. You would like to still be at the home where you are, that maybe you have caregivers in your home, or maybe you adopt your home, and that what it will be an ideal day for you, like go for a walk and go for a coffee and things like that. So then we can picture these future environments that we're trying to build. And this is the information we've been gathering through our forums. And we're working in this comprehensive report in which we don't want some of the comments from our community members who are so valuable to fall through the cracks. So we want each comment to be there, because this work was going to the forum. Sometimes it will be two or one community member that made it to the forum, but everything that person had to say is so important, and it maybe doesn't represent anyone or everybody, but still represents a percentage, and that's important to have. And at the end of the sessions, we ask the participants to write on a paper the two domains of livability that they identify as a priority. Some of them wrote 3. And if you go to the next slide, I'm not sure if that has something. No. So you can go ahead, but go to the previous one. So I just want to share with you that the results from those voting system that we did, it came with housing, transportation, and healthcare systems as the top priorities.
And those are very aligned with what the health assessment showed across the community as well. So there's definitely alignment, and I think a need and a desire to use this age-friendly lens to look at our priority areas as a community. I'm really happy that, there's still, like I said, there's still this opportunity to get involved. So this hasn't totally wrapped up, but we have seen some definite emerging trends across the survey results we've had, across the 9 different forums we've held so far. It's been exciting work to come back and see what the results have been after my maternity leave. Andrea and Julie were very busy in October and November. And so I'm again going to plug the continued desire for continued engagement. So that survey link, you can find it on the Care Partners website. The link's right there. I know it got put in the chat as well. And then to just watch for the date and time of that last community forum that we're going to be hosting at the YMCA. And that is a wrap. We have time for questions. It looks like we have about 10 minutes here. So I'd welcome anyone in the virtual audience to, actually, Kelsey, I don't know if you have a preference for unmuting or putting questions in the chat.
No, you can absolutely do both. So if you would like to unmute yourself, please do so now, and feel free to ask your question or if you are, some people like to raise their hand, you're welcome to do that as well, and I'll call on you. Otherwise, you're welcome to put your questions into the chat and I will read them off if you want to stay anonymous. As long as we're prepping people, I'm just going to say, Grace, that one of the things that came up for me as I was completing the survey, some of it is things that are not in my realm today. I would just be asking, as it was asked in the chat, are all ages encouraged to take the survey or only elders? And if you are maybe not in certain stages of aging that are being asked about, how would you expect us to be answering? Do you want us to be answering as our current situation or as our expectations for the future?
It is absolutely open to everyone. The focus has been on individuals who already identify themselves as older adults, but I'm again kind of like channeling my conversations with Julie here. She would always say, we're all aging. And so if you're someone who wants to stay in this community 10, 20, 30 years from now, you can think about what an age-friendly community would look like for you. So that visualization that Andrea talked about, that is really relevant to people of all ages. So anyone's welcome to take the survey. There is a place for you to add your age. It's optional to put that in there, but that can kind of help us as we're analyzing the data to say, oh, when we looked at people who are, in the 40 to 60 age range, things cropped up a little bit differently than when we had respondents from 60 to 70 or 70 to 80. So we can break the data down in that way, and we certainly don't want to dissuade anyone from taking the survey. So we're all aging. We're all welcome to take the survey.
Another question I might ask about the survey is just at the end of every page, there's a little bit of more about like a box for free flowing ideas or things that maybe weren't missed. How detailed do you want people to get? Is that a place that holds extra value for comments?
Absolutely, it does. And we are welcoming any comments, any ideas. Like if someone says, you know what, I've been seeing this problem happening, and I think this is a solution. That's what we're looking for. Like your input, you as a community member telling us, what do you think it will work? Or what do you think we missed? Or what is a burning topic? Is that how you call it? So we would like your input, because the ones who have been living here for years or generations have a lot more input or background on what we could, know, and those are valuable to have as, grounding information. And but regarding to the survey, we are encouraging all ages to take the survey. We cater the survey in a way that it didn't matter how old you will be, because when you answer the question, you could say no applicable. Maybe those are some things that will be good for us to communicate with the public at large in our last call, because the main reason why we have been keeping this survey open for longer is to encourage families with kids, families that take care of, let's say, I take care of my parents, even if, my parents are not here, maybe they could come here one day. And so we think about projection, we think about who do we take care of. It's not just us, it could be us here that we have, family that is aging in the area, and we are curious for them as well. So the more that we know of what your needs are, it doesn't matter in what age group you are, then the more inclusive and age-friendly of a community we can build.
I see that there's another question here. Is all data consider only 65 plus? That's 35 years from 65 to 100.
So we can break it down more. I agree, it's just a huge range of age and experience. 65 to 100 is there's a lot of variety in there. So we can absolutely break it down more as we analyze the data. If a person self-reports, there's a demographic section at the end of the survey. And if you enter in your age in one of those ranges, then we're able to break down the responses by more specific age groups.
This is Colette, if I may speak. Julie and Andrea came to Grand Portage for a forum for the community listening session. And the elders really, really enjoyed it. And I just went to an elders meeting 2 nights ago, and they want to have another one. And I said, well, what would you like it to be on? And they talked a lot about things they didn't know that they need to fill out as they age and before they pass on. So they decided that they would like to have Julie or whoever, Andrea, come and present the living will, how to properly fill it out. And they said it was so much fun last time, they want to do it again. So I said, okay, we'll do it next month on the last Monday of the month. So I was so pleased. Thank you, Andrea.
Andrea, you're on mute.
I just want to say that I enjoy every single session. It's like I strive for. I think this is like my favorite part of the job. Just like I get talk to the community members and have just a big open ear and try to, you know, and like capture what their thoughts are. So I'm so glad, Colette, and I will be so pleased to be there again. Either it's me with Julie, me with Grace, whoever wants to, whoever is available to make it to that.
Thank you. And how, and this is part of the grant, correct? That you received? How long will this be able to keep on going?
So the grant we have right now goes through March, but we're looking at it as like a first step. We're hoping that, so this grant is really the information gathering. That's what it funded, was to be able to do the survey and the forums and do a presentation and to share back that information to the community. But we're hoping that it can be just that first step, and afterwards that we can commit to using what we learn to making the communities here more age friendly. So we want to use this as a base to build from, and I'm hoping that if the grant ends in March, the end of March, but the work is just beginning, is kind of how I like to look at it.
Thank you.
And Colette, I don't want to speak too much for Julie, but I know that she is very excited about continuing to connect with the community in Grand Portage. So once that woman is determined to do a thing, she will find a way to do the thing. So grant funding or not through this particular initiative, I know that that's something that she's excited about continuing, and I have every confidence that it will occur.
And why am I not surprised? She's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Regarding to the questions about the age demographic, like 65 plus is a large demographic to consider, right? Where we maybe missed to say this, but we are mindful about that. We're mindful that 65, when you're at age 65, you're not gonna have the same needs if you are at 80. And then, you know, we're learning, I've been going to age aging council meetings in the state, and learning more about the needs on those different groups, and how there are something called the young 80, or a young 80-year-old, or you're an old 80-year-old. And I'm like, wow, that's such a distinct. So the young 80-year-old is, you know, more active, more like there's more mobility in the joints. I don't know how to say it without, you know, using the wrong language, but that would be a young 80. And then an old 80 will be maybe an 80 that has more, you know, joint problems, mobility problems. And then there's like different activities and different things and different programs and or ways of connecting them to those two groups. And because there are a lot of things that you can do on 65 and older to improve their health, to improve their mental health, to improve everything in the general. So that's the science is coming out now, and you know, being passed down to us that work in public health or care partners or these agencies, you know, to be implementing it.
The young
So we
80s
continue.
are those beautiful women on the beach with the purple hair. I love that. Another thing is, as the boomers, which I am one of those, there's so many more comorbidities approaching. And I'm finding this out through my research that I do, you know, so there's a lot that will be happening.
And I think that this age-friendly initiative is creating the opportunity in which we're working together. So I love that you're saying this, Colette, because that helped, you know, before it was the aging council and the care partners, very confined work. We're trying to expand this lens and grasping on all of the as a whole, like in every corner. So we are also mindful about these things, like the morbidities that you're talking about that come with age. knowing how can we support better.
Right.
Well, it is 1:02, so I am going to give you the respect to end this meeting, but I also want to say thank you to our presenters today for sharing such great information and encouragement that this conversation can continue. We look forward to having more discussions and more information as this survey completes. I encourage you, if you haven't yet, to complete it. And I'll toss it off to just quick end for Christy.
Thank you so much for attending, and I'll be sending some follow-up information as well. And so thanks again for coming, and have lovely days, all of you.